You're live. Thank you, Sutton. Good evening. Would you please join me with the invocation, and that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would, please bow your head. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the blessings that you have given us. We thank you for providing us the opportunity to serve the citizens of Elkins. We ask that you guide us in our decision-making as we strive to help our community grow. We also ask that you watch over and guide our country's leaders. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
I will now call the Elkins Common Council meeting to order and ask Ms. Rachel to take roll, please.
Counselor Bross Freganera.
Here.
Counselor Chenoweth.
Here.
Counselor Kwanzo.
Present.
Counselor Guy.
Present.
Counselor Higgins.
Here.
Counselor Hinchman.
Here.
Counselor Lowther.
Here.
Counselor Parker.
Here.
Counselor Vest.
Here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here for public comment tonight? I think you know the routine. Approach the podium and give your name and address.
Yes, Robbie Morris, 131 Castle Rock Drive in Elkins. I'm here this evening on behalf of the Randolph County Development Authority. I had appeared before the Municipal Properties Committee to talk about Riverbend Park Road as it relates to the industrial park expansion that we have. And I noticed it didn't make the agenda tonight, so Councilwoman Kwanzo suggested that I speak during public comment. I was going to appear this evening to talk about the Industrial Access Road Grant that we are applying for through the West Virginia Department of Economic Development and the West Virginia Division of Highways. Those grant funds, which were authorized earlier through another procedure through the County Commission, requires, we would be applying for those funds for the entrance into the park and upgrade of Riverbend Road and any necessary upgrades along Industrial Park Road between Greenfield Cabinetry and the entrance to Riverbend Road. And the grant requires that any roadways that use Industrial Access Road Grant funds be part of the state system. And right now, through the truck route and through Industrial Park Road and down 11th Street, it stops at Greenfield and makes a left if you're coming from the bridge and goes down 11th. What we are proposing and would ask is that the city authorize or be willing to relinquish responsibility for maintenance and ownership of that road from Greenfield Cabinetry up to the sewer plant on Riverbend Road, so that becomes part of the state system. It becomes part of, it would be the state's responsibility for that, and to make it eligible for the Industrial Access Road Grant funds. It's going to take 2, possibly 3 fiscal years to do everything that we need to do as far as upgrading goes, because the grant only authorizes $400,000 per state fiscal year. So our first priority is to get a railroad crossing and then create an intersection where it bears off to the right. We would create an intersection there where you could turn left into the park or turn right, or turn right and then continue on into the sewer plant or to Riverbend Road. So that was what I presented to Municipal Properties, and Councilwoman Kwanzo is going to report on that later, but just throwing it out there for now. So,
Thank you, sir.
you're welcome.
Is there anyone else here for public comment tonight? If not, we'll move down to the minutes. I'm looking for a motion to accept the minutes from the May 19th, 2022 meeting.
Motion to accept.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Also, I'm looking for a motion to accept the minutes from the special call meeting on May 25th, 2022.
Motion to accept.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Your correspondence and notification, you have your issued building permits and minutes of the committee, board, and commission meetings. And tonight, we have a presentation from the Randolph County Solar Co-op, and we have Miss Leah Barber that's going to present for us. Welcome.
sneak peek at our funder update. Says I'm on both. Oh, gotcha.
Would it be too much to ask to put one monitor in the center and face the other monitor towards the crowd?
Yeah,
I'm not sure that it will.
yeah, unless you guys want to come on up here.
Come on, you wanna give it a shot?
They're both on. Yeah, that's fine. I'll be listening.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see Rob? Yeah, a little bit of a glare. You want to come back? Charlie, see?
Guess we should start at the top here. Alrighty, good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for allowing me to give you this presentation this evening. My name is Leah Barber, and I'm the State Director with Solar United Neighbors. And so I'm here tonight to talk to you about our solar cooperative model. We currently have a co-op that's launched in Tucker, Randolph, and Upshur counties. And so I'll tell you a little bit about Solar United Neighbors before I get into what the co-op is and what my ask is this evening. And so Solar United Neighbors is a membership-based national nonprofit. We currently have programming in 12 different states and also DC, and we mainly organize around solar policy issues. So we're not a solar installer, we're actually vendor neutral, and that's integral to our solar co-op model, which I'm gonna get to here in a few slides. So we're primarily focused on consumer advocacy and also community outreach. And that's really born from how Sun got started. In 2007, our founder, Anya Schoolman, gathered a group of neighbors to go solar together, and that was sparked by her son's interest, and she was also interested and didn't really know how to parse the sales pitch, kind of like go through the technical nuances of going solar, the terminology, the technology, etc. And so what she did was dispatch her son and his friend out into their neighborhood and just to kind of like gather a bunch of folks so that they could draw on one another's expertise and kind of like all go through the process together. And so they were able to get a better deal on their systems by leveraging this bulk purchase buying power. And after, I think, over like 40-something folks, neighbors, went solar together at that time, and then Anya started getting a bunch of calls, and then she started Solar United Neighbors. And so our theory of change over the last 15 years has been to, go solar and have folks join together and then fight for their energy rights. So like I said, solar policy issues and consumer advocacy of solar owners and solar access for other people who are looking to go solar is really baked into our model. So in the 15 years since then, we've grown to have members in all 50 states. We've led over 330 solar co-ops, and that's helped over 6,400 homes and businesses go solar. And so that translates to 54 megawatts of installed capacity, which is a number that we're really proud of. And it's also had the effect of offsetting over 830 metric tons of carbon dioxide. And so our program impact here in West Virginia, we've had a program since 2015, and we've run solar co-ops all over the state. I think the last one that we had here was one of the first ones that we did, and that was back in 2014 or 15. And so 159 people to date since that time have gone solar with us. And, so our model is really based on helping people go solar either through the co-op if we have one in the area, or we can help folks on a one-off basis. And this includes businesses, municipalities, nonprofits, farms, houses of worship. And our list is really just continuing to grow. And so we bring people together through events like 101 info sessions, where I talk about technology, like economics and financing, and then also our co-op process and the model. And let me kind of breeze through some of this. So we are focused on building a more equitable energy system through distributed generation. And so what we've seen is that rooftop solar really allows people to lock in their energy costs. It insulates them from rising electricity bills. They're able to then reinvest their savings back into the local economy as well. And so it promotes local investment, creates local jobs, and brings control of the energy system back within our reach as producers of part of that energy. And this is really especially important in West Virginia. As I just said, West Virginia ratepayers are consistently burdened by rising rates and are often paying an outsized portion of their incomes on electric utility costs. And so, yeah, like I said, it helps to insulate people from those costs. And, you know, these figures that I just mentioned here on this slide really highlight one of my favorite things about our co-op model, and that's how, you know, the benefits really start with the individual, but they ripple out to the community and to the local economy as well. And that's why I'm here tonight. It's why I'm excited to tell you about our solar co-op model, and that we have launched a co-op as of May 13th in Tucker, Randolph, and Upshur counties. But I will say that there's no doubt that this model is strengthened by partnerships with community organizations, with municipalities, and also with local businesses. And so we work in close collaboration with those partners to achieve a successful co-op. And by way of example, the town of Fayetteville and also the city of Smithers partnered with us on our most recent 2020 co-op, which was the Southeast West Virginia co-op. And so now I'll kind of just touch on how the process works and what you could expect if you would partner with us on this co-op. And so, you know, we really like these co-op models because you get a really great value on your installation. People can leverage their bulk purchase buying power to realize up to 20% off of their systems. You also get our technical assistance along the way. As I mentioned, we are installer neutral, and so you wouldn't be promoting any certain kind of business or anything like that. And you also get to connect with other folks in your community who are going solar, and like I said, from that you know, foundational model of Anya's family's experience, like draw on one another's expertise, and then celebrate, as I'll say at the end here. But during each phase, the roles and responsibilities of the community partner does vary. But the focus is mainly on building trust in the community, increasing public interest, and, you know, like reserving spaces for info sessions, which I carry most of that myself, but mostly just spreading the word and recruiting participants and helping with like outreach and education opportunities so people understand what the solar co-op is, how it benefits them, and also, you know, our job is to make sure that people are making well-informed decisions that they feel good about. And so the process works like this. I should also say that our goal for this co-op is for 50 people to go solar together, homes and or businesses. And so becoming a co-op member does not obligate that person to go solar. What does happen is they sign up, they get a free roof review, and so we'll look at their roof, take in, you know, age and, you know, condition into consideration. We'll do a shade analysis and make sure that you're well situated for solar. And we give you that feedback. And then you get a customized proposal that just shows you, based on your annual energy consumption, the size of your system, how much you would need to finance if that was an option that you were going to do. And so I guess my point is here is that, like, we're there every step of the way. Money does not start exchanging hands until people sign a contract, right? And so Solar United Neighbors is there to make sure that folks feel good about what they're doing. And once the co-op has 30 participants, we issue a competitive request for proposals out to all the installers in the state. And the way that that works is there's a self-selected volunteer, we call them the selection committee within the co-op. And so also when these folks sign up, they choose, you know, based on their own preferences and values, like what they, I guess, value the most. So whether it be, you know, lowest price, best quality equipment, a local installer with the most experience, things like that. And so when we issue this request for proposals, we get a bunch of bids in, we dial them down into really digestible language. The selection committee comes together and makes a choice for the entire co-op based on the co-op shared values. And then after that, our sign-up deadline for this co-op is August 31st, so we still have a few months to kind of like get the word out and get people to sign up. At present, we have 17 out of 50 members, and we launched 2 weeks ago, so I'm feeling really good about that. And then, yeah, the installation time usually happens in month 8 or 10, and so we're looking at the end of quarter 4/quarter 1 of 2023 for these installations. And then basically what happens after that is that we party, people get to kind of nerd out and talk about their new technology and celebrate, their energy savings and their new solar installation. And so that's a little bit about us and about our process and the work that we do here in West Virginia, to really connect people with solar access and also help them realize those benefits. And so you can learn more at solarunitedneighbors.org and also reach out to me personally. I really do appreciate your time. I know this is kind of a one-off thing for this meeting, so I do appreciate you all being here. And like I said, I am here to propose a potential partnership. And so if anybody has questions about what our co-op process is, if it would be a good fit, I'm here to field those questions now, or later.
So when you say it would be a partnership, what does that mean?
Well, I think that there's like varying degrees of partnership. As I mentioned before, the way that we tend to get the word out is through earned media opportunities. Our partners will post on social media or let people know when we're having an info session. And so just really trying to cast a wider net to get more folks involved.
Were you on the radio the other day?
Was I on the radio the other day?
On-
I was on
What's-
Channel 12.
On Channel 12, okay.
That's right,
Because I
yeah.
heard somebody talking about.
Oh,
Spirit-
that was one of our co-op partners
Okay.
who actually went solar with our Southeast West Virginia co-op and was just, really pleased with the way the co-op model went and how things, and so now their organization is partnering with us on this co-op.
Uh-huh. Well, and how can you, what kind of savings? It'd probably be for something like the city of Elkins, be a huge investment, obviously, solar-wise, but what kind of savings do most people see after they have?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we see savings really correlate with economies of scale, and so with the larger system that you install, the more savings that you'll realize. And commercial entities are different than residential, obviously, because it's different rate classes. But what we've seen on the residential rate class is that folks usually they get savings the first year of their installation, and then they start the return on investment in year 10 to 12, depending on the size of their system.
Okay.
What are initial investment costs for residential?
So for a 4 kilowatt system, initial investment costs are around $10,000 to $11,000. And then also, with 4 to 6 kilowatts is usually what we see for a typical residential system here in West Virginia. And so that's anywhere from $11,000 to $18,000. But then there's also a 26% federal tax credit right now off the total project cost. And that actually steps down in 2023 to 22%. And then to nothing outside of commercial entities can still realize 10% indefinitely. But for residential, there's no promise, I guess, that they're going to reinstate that federal tax credit or that they're going to expand it either. So this is kind of the sweet spot, I guess you could say, for folks to go solar. Because as I said, installations don't happen until, if somebody were to join the co-op and they were really motivated and they were in direct communication with the installer, then, on a regular basis, and we're very responsive, then they would definitely be able to realize that 26% tax credit. For those who are a little bit more leisurely, it may be the 22, because we're kind of right on the edge right now.
And when you say 4 kilowatt hours, what kind of a residence is that? I mean, how big of a footprint is that?
So for example, I actually used to live in Upshur County, and we had an off-grid solar PV system. It was 4.2 kilowatts, and we're a family of 4, and are you asking about like, I mean, and I was
Square
able to
footage
run
of-
all of my appliances and
Square footage of a house, is that how you look at it?
probably around like 2,000 square feet, something like that.
And that runs heat and air conditioning and lights, refrigerators, everything?
Yeah, and you know, the thing about, I'm not a solar installer, and so one of the things about the co-op is that you do get a customized proposal based on your annual energy consumption. And so what they'll do is request a utility bill, and then depending on your energy consumption needs and also your budget and the space that you have available, because some folks just install solar to offset their usage as well, and not necessarily like as a 100%, although if that's your goal, they can definitely try to make that happen for you as well.
And is that percentage, 26%, is that based on a co-op?
No, ma'am, that's a federal tax incentive.
Okay.
It's an income tax. And if you don't have enough tax liability, you can roll it over for up to 5 years, from what I understand.
If I may just add one thing, just for knowledge of council.
Yeah.
The city pays for all of their properties monthly between $40,000 and $50,000 a year, or a month, excuse me. About 20 to 22,000 is water plant related, just to give you some food for thought.
So do other communities, I mean, I know you're giving a lot of details for particular potential customers, but do communities sort of use the aspect that this co-op exists to be an attractive thing to move to that particular area? Like I would think if Elkins were to say, you know, we are part of the Randolph County, the name of your group, I would think that would be an attractive thing for people who are looking for alternative. Do people market it that way, or?
Yeah, and I would say too that I don't know necessarily about marketing it that way, but what we have seen consistently is that, you know, so sometimes there are HOAs, or like people within HOAs who are interested in going solar. And so we kind of like step in as, you know, the technical assistants to like educate the HOA board members about how solar, you know, like increases the property value of not only the homes that are there, but neighboring property values as well. And that's a pretty attractive, you know, value.
And you may not be able to answer this, but is it a reliable source of kilowatt hours? Is it reliable?
Is solar reliable?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and there are
In West
also,
Virginia.
I think that, you know, for people who have, you know, because if you do have a grid-tied system, one thing that's important to know is that when the grid goes down, your power goes out too, right? There's something, so your panels will produce direct current energy, and then you have a piece of equipment that's part of your installation that's called an inverter, and it'll invert that power to alternating current, which is what your home's electronic appliances use. But when the grid goes down, that inverter is connected to the grid, is connected to the internet, it senses that the grid is out, and will stop the power, like bidirectional power between your system and the grid. And so for people who have critical needs, or any kind of, I mean, a lot of us have well pumps in West Virginia, and so like water is a critical need, right? And so, you know, you can wire your system into a generator if you have an existing whole house generator, or you can also have a backup battery bank as well. And that battery bank, I should also say, batteries are expensive, but they are coming down in price. And for somebody who, like I said, has critical medical needs that they need to have power for, or also, you know, even if they're just concerned about emergency preparedness, it is a good option to do battery storage. And also that tax credit is off the total project cost at the time of installation. And so if you do get a battery bank, then you do get that 26% off the total project cost as well.
And if the city wanted to look at this more closely, how would we go about that?
I
Contact
have
you?
a Solar 101 information session coming up on June 22nd at 7 p.m. via Zoom that you're all welcome to. And then if you'd like any more information, I'm here, this is my job. I'm here to field your questions at any time. Please reach out. I'd be happy to set up a meeting at any time.
And how do we get a hold of you?
Oh, I'll tell you. My cell phone number is 304-212-8852, and my email address is lbarbor, B-A-R-B-O-R, @solarunitedneighbors.org.
Thank you.
Can it be used to run specific equipment around the city?
Specific equipment
Yeah, I
for
don't know,
like
just
utility needs?
instead of having a large area, like say a garage or something else like that, where you have it hooked up just to a furnace to where it's going to run. And does it have elements in it that would heat the solar panel so that the snow would not cover it?
That's a really good question. From what I understand, so the way that grid-tied systems work here in West Virginia is that we have a law that's called net metering. And so basically, when you are realizing, the full solar resource in the long summer days on a really nice day, you build up a bank of credits, essentially, that roll over from month to month. And then so on those shorter, darker winter days, if your panels are covered with snow and they're not melting fast enough, you get to spend down on that bank of credits, essentially. And it'll reflect on your utility bill, so you can see, what your consumption is compared to what you've produced. You pay the difference if you're not building up a bank of credits, but if you have an adequate system size for what your usage is, you will definitely be realizing that bank of credits and be able to spend down on it in those times of less production. Does that answer your question?
Yes, but going back to the original one, can you set it up just to run a certain piece of equipment or area network or something else like that?
If you have a specific area of the city that's metered independently,
Yes.
then, I think that, like I said, I'm not an installer. I don't want to give you information that isn't thorough and accurate, and so I can double check and make sure. But from what I understand, if it has its own meter and its own electrical service panel, and you're looking to do a grid-tied system, that should be no problem. But as far as like mobile pieces of equipment, I don't know about that. That's
I
one
would be
thing I have to
interested in
look
that
into.
too.
Okay,
I had a quick question for you as well.
Sure.
It sounded like we were kind of beating around the bush there a little bit about it, but, if the city wanted to, be a Solar United neighbor, would we be able to jump in there with the citizens as well? I don't know. For like municipal property needs?
so part of our request for proposals, in that kind of like query that we sent out to all installers, there is just kind of a cutout for commercial installations as well. And so, the different installers will come back at like a price per watt. And then for commercial installs, if you all had specific buildings that you wanted to, do a solar install on, we could definitely take a look at those. And I believe we've had cities participate in co-ops as well, although if you would make the choice to do so, you all would, I think, be the first one in West Virginia. So,
Gotcha. Thank you.
sure.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Barber. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Feel free to reach out anytime.
Okay, moving on to the committee reports, we will start with Councilor Chenoweth. I'll give him a chance to get back to a seat.
Get seated again. Personnel Committee, we have not had a meeting since our last meeting, but we do have a meeting next week, the 9th of June, 12 noon, here at City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Guy.
No report.
Counselor Henchman.
Finance is not met. We've changed ours to the 13th of this month. ARPA met, and we'll be voting on the different things that we had discussions with wastewater plant, fire department, wastewater collection, and the street department, so we'll see all that.
Thank you. Counselor Higgins.
I have no report.
Thank you. Counselor Lowther.
Parks has not met since our last meeting. The next Parks meeting will be the 15th at 5 p.m. at the Phil Gaynor Center.
Thank you. Counselor Bras Friganera.
We'll have rules and ordinance this Wednesday at 9 o'clock. And then I'll have more.
Thank you. Counselor Kwanzo.
Hello. Municipal properties met on May 24th, and we discussed many different items. And Dr. Biola gave an update on the Kump Education Center. I believe it's in your packet. And Elkins Main Street, we don't have anybody right now, but we discussed the Tigard Hotel generator location, which will be located at the Seneca Mall parking lot. I'm not sure that needs full council approval. Do you know, Mayor?
I'm not positive on that.
Okay, anyway, we'll talk to Jessica
Probably so,
about
though.
that. Probably so. RCDA request for transfer of road ownership. Like Robbie Morris gave us a little update on that, and the Department of Highways will have to work with them and the city, and there'll be more to come on that when the time is right. The Darden House lease agreements, I believe Jerry is working on those. Is that correct?
Correct. They're going to come back at your next municipal properties meeting.
Okay, thank you. And the last but not least is, well, we will be discussing the Elkins signs, and everybody, I think, did get a copy of all the different signs, and so make sure you take a look at those. And yes, the Hearing Assist program that was presented to municipal properties, there is a movement to have some Wi-Fi headphones for the city council chambers, and I think that it might be extremely helpful for people who struggle with hearing in here. So I think the total cost was $2,550. I can't remember if that's right, but I think I have it written down here as that. So that is, will be coming, it's not on the agenda again for tonight, so probably have to wait for Jessica to get back, get more information on that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for Robbie. The road between Greenfield Cabinetry and Riverbend entrance, is there a plan for an additional lane to be added, a turning lane to be added there?
So we have not gotten into the full design of
Okay.
that yet. As far as Industrial Park Road from Greenfield to Riverbend, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe you could potentially add that in. But what I do know, so I'm not sure about widening that, but I do know Riverbend Park Road would be widened to add so that the vehicular lanes were wider, but also actually put shoulders. So it would ultimately end up being safer as far as people coming in and out, because you would have more space. You know, if two vehicles are passing on that road right now and somebody's walking on it.
Well, and then parking's an issue too during baseball and soccer season and.
Well, and that was I had a conversation with Dick Harvey about this when we were doing our due diligence and evaluating it. And right as the road turns to the right, where we would be going to the left, we would create an intersection there to where everyone's paths and everything is very clearly marked for vehicular and pedestrian traffic. But that field that is to the right there, you know, they say it's not used every weekend, like a T-ball opening weekend when everyone and their brother comes to see that, you know, that can be used. And the first car in there dictates whether you can get 10 cars in there or 20 cars in there.
Yeah.
We talked about actually making that area a potential parking lot so that for the overflow areas and ingress and egress, that, you know, as an
Okay.
enhancement, kind of a mitigation factor as well for the park, that we could look at the installation of that down the road as the park develops. So another thing that was talked about was the desire to expand the park back where the soccer fields are. If you were to go across the railroad tracks into the, you know, Oddfellows property, or now ours, there could be walking trails or some things over there. And we're totally in support of that. That section has, you know, floodplain issues as well as, you know, wetlands issues. So taking that section out, our first phase is to develop 44 acres that is on the side closest to the back of Wilson Lumber property. So from now and most likely to the foreseeable future, there is ample property over there that is outside of the floodplain that could be used for that. And we would be happy to partner with the city on that to make that happen. So we did consult with Parks and Rec on potential, because we understand it is, you know, primarily a park road right now, and making an industrial road, there are definitely considerations that need to be taken in place, and we are doing that.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll continue to update and work with you guys as we develop that further.
Okay. I knew Dick had some conversations with you about it
Yeah,
earlier, but,
yes, sir.
okay. All right, thanks.
Hey, you're very welcome.
Robbie, can I just, is there a deadline that the city needs to make that decision for you to move forward with that?
The sooner the better. We are trying to submit a grant for this fiscal year. And to be honest, it's at the end of the fiscal year, so there are some funds available, enough to do this if we get it in. But, you know, there's a lot of other factors too. I have not, I've talked about this with the DOH, but obviously the first step is you have to be willing to turn over responsibility of those roads to DOH, because if you say no, I have no conversation with DOH. You say yes, then we'll go down that route. I think there would be time, so, you know, your next council meeting. And I think what we had talked about in municipal properties was a resolution at this
Correct.
particular point to just say, hey, the city is in favor of this. DOH, if you're in favor of it, come back to us with whatever documents need to be signed or approved, and we can present that to council and whatnot.
That's what we talked about, and I think that could certainly be put on the agenda for the second June meeting, which has been changed. I believe it's going to be a different date. But in any event, I think a resolution just basically saying the city's all right with doing that, with the input from the DOH, and with an opportunity to review the final plans once you get to that, so.
Right, because, you know, me saying.
No one really knows now.
Right, me saying, well, I've talked to members of council, and I've talked to the mayor, or talked to the city attorney, and, yeah, they say there's no problem. Unofficially, that's different than you taking official action that says you would be okay with it.
Well, I think so the Development Authority can get moving on this, we should get it on the agenda for the.
That's what I was saying. For the next meeting, be sure there's a resolution on there that would give you the type of support it looks like you need.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
And even if that happened and we don't get the grant, then I'll be back in July. Well, you know, having this resolution, that'll go from fiscal year to fiscal year without a problem. But I told the county commission when I was there earlier today that if the grant wasn't approved, I'd be back in July, because they have to pass a separate resolution as part of the application process. So I'd be back in July at the beginning of fiscal year '23 instead of the end of '22.
You are always welcome, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Is
Robbie.
that it?
Thank you, Robbie.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
absolutely appreciate it, guys.
Counselor Vest.
Okay, the new ad hoc internal audit recognition committee, we met last week. Next meeting will be June the 21st at 1 o'clock.
Thank you. Counselor Parker.
Public safety has not met since our last meeting. We will be meeting on the 13th at 10 o'clock in this chamber. Bring popcorn and join us.
Thank you, sir. Okay, our Chief Water Operator, Wes Lambert.
All right, I got a few things to give you this evening. The flushing for spring 2022 is complete. I'm pleased to say that this spring's flushing went a lot smoother than last fall's.
You better knock on wood.
Yeah, but I really do believe that the maintenance program's paying off there. The hydrants opened much easier and the water cleaned up a lot faster, so, and we were able to do it in a lot shorter period of time. So I'm pleased with that result. The guys were also able to start a new program this week. They were able to start the valve maintenance program, which is long overdue. Everyone knows here that we have a big problem with old valves in this system. Half the time we can't get the water shut off in a short time period, and we end up breaking valves in the process. Well, this program should help with that. This new valve trailer that we have will actually clean the valves out and exercise them to a certain torque that one or two people couldn't put on them by themselves with a wrench. So I really have seen good results out of the 24 valves we've done so far. We've actually stopped a couple of them from leaking. So I believe in a couple years we should see a different system in Elkins.
How often will you be doing those exercises?
Through the summer months. It's not really healthy to do it in the fall and winter and spring. Sometimes you do more damage than good, but definitely through the summer. On May 17th through the 20th, we had Vocla come out to the plant, and they done a process audit. And what that audit is basically a very thorough inspection of the plant process. The reason I scheduled this was we were having problems at the plant. The pressures were going up on the filters, and that is usually an indication of the membranes reaching their life expectancy. There's other factors in that, but that is definitely one sign of that. So I called them in, they came, and we dodged a bullet. There was a valve that was malfunctioning on the cleaning process of those membranes. They were actually only getting about a third of the chemical cleans they were supposed to get. So they were able to fix that. We were able to do a full clean cycle on every filter, and the pressures dropped drastically. So he's going to have some numbers for me of the remaining life expectancy. I'll probably be able to give you a report on that in another month. He'll have the numbers for me, but I would say we'll probably get at least 2 or 3 more years out of those filters before we have to replace them now. So. Another thing I want to talk to you about this evening is for the past month or so, Tracy, Jerry Roberts, and I and the Water Board have been working on water needs assessment and a rate case study. The purpose of that study is to basically identify the areas of need in the water system and also determine what percentage of a rate increase we would need to cover that. We're using Griffith and Associates for the rate increase study, and we're using Burgess and Nyepel for the water needs assessment. They kind of work hand in hand together, and I don't really have a lot of information right now. We've been turning in a lot of data to them right now, so right now we're in the data gathering process, and we really haven't sat down with them and really talked a whole lot of hard figures yet. So once we get a little more numbers together, we'll come back to you and update council. That's all I have for my report. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank you.
Chief Bennett.
Good evening. In the month of May, the Elkins Police Department responded to 533 calls for service. That resulted in 32 cases with 28 arrests and 30 citations issued. As you can see, over the last couple months, we've been over 500 calls a month. Starting to get warmer outside and everybody's coming out, so we expect that to increase and continue throughout the summer. Still have one vehicle in the body shop that was damaged during pursuit. It ended up doing $5,000 damage to that vehicle, so hopefully they'll get it done soon and get back. We also had one cruiser have the windshield damage and need to be replaced this week, so it's already finished and back, so we're happy to have that back. Other than that, I don't have anything else to report.
Any questions? Thank you, Chief. Mr. Sampson?
Good evening, council. Only have a few things for you tonight. Our bulk pickups and sanitation start Monday, June 6th. So far, we've got a lot of good feedback from citizens saying that something's been well needed. I think, Sutton's really got that out there to where it's helped us out a lot. We are looking at possible changes coming up in the future for possible businesses to be included in that, but it's still in conversation. So I'll update more on that as we have it. City Hall HVAC RFQ ended on 5/26. We have 7 total submissions. I'm in the process of creating a team now to shortlist those firms. We have a lot of hopeful submissions that come in for their qualifications. We've been dealing with a lot of staffing issues in streets and sanitation. Each department was down. Sanitation, I think, was down 4 guys, and then streets was down 2 or 3. They've kind of shared employees between each other, helped each other out, got through the bulk of it. We are now back up to full staff starting Monday, so we're lucky to get those guys back on, get guys on board and getting trained. On June 14th, we have interviews for the shortlisted firms for the Davis Avenue Bridge. We have the 5 total, Burgess and Nyepel. We have the Michael Baker, Thrasher, E.L. Robinson, and HDR. So I'll give you all an update on that the next time. And then the mayor and I met with Randolph County Housing Authority today as they are applying for a grant, and they're wanting to collaborate with several entities throughout the city to give input on a trade training. It's heavy equipment operations, whether it's going to be forestry, mining, or just construction, generalized construction. They got a lot of great feedback. They had a lot of good conversations today from all the several entities that was there, and then they've got entities that didn't show up today that's already given feedback by via email or phone calls. So it's a lot of good possibilities coming down the pike, especially for our folks among the city, that we might get some skilled positions or skilled personnel coming on board versus us training them from the beginning. So it's a good thing to have. That's all I have tonight. Any questions? Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Ms. Judy?
Good evening. Just a couple things. A couple weeks ago, I was contacted by Skylar Watering of the State Auditor's Office. He's the Transparency and Oversight Manager, and he was requesting, the State Auditor's Office had been reviewing our website, and they were requesting to use an overview of fund accounting that Sutton had put together explaining the difference between governmental and proprietary funds. Sutton gave his okay as long as the city was given their fair share. So I want to read you just basically the intro to that. It says, Intro to Local Government Bookkeeping Fund Accounting. The City of Elkins and Randolph County, West Virginia created a high-level overview of how governments keep their books and how each local government categories funds for their city, best practices and restrictions for those funds. We are very appreciative of their willingness to share this overview, and we hope it aids you in consuming the information given in our local government transparency sites. So if you would like to take a look at that, you could just go to westvirginiacheckbook.gov and then go to the local government transparency site, and you'll see that on there where the city's worked with the state auditor's office on that. And as I've mentioned in the past, we're having some issues with bills uploading to our online bill pay site or from our utility site to the customers. I believe today we have our online bill site taken care of. This evening, our software company working with our IT is supposed to be working on our database to try to figure out why emails are not going to Gmail accounts. So we're still diligently working with that. I have probably spent 20 hours in about the last 4 days just looking at that stuff. So other than that, that's all I have. Anybody have any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Chief Himes.
Evening, excuse me. So month of May, we had 53 incidents, 2 building fires, 12 motor vehicle accidents, actually 16 motor vehicle accidents. Brings us to a 217 total call volume for the year, so we're about on average pace. We did send 5 members to Barber County yesterday, as I'm sure everybody saw on the news, to assist in the incident down at Party Rock. Not our first rodeo with that down there. Everything had a very successful outcome. I was contacted by the chief of Philippi and the Barber County Sheriff, and their appreciation of our efforts in that incident. And other than that, business as usual. Anybody have any questions for me about anything?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I'm not going to call on Ms. Wickham, but I am going to say happy anniversary since she's been with us for a year now. So we appreciate that. So, Ms. Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 things quickly. Mayor Marco, Chief Himes, and I participated in a conference call today with the Home Rule Board. They called this meeting especially to decide how they would deal with the city's amended application concerning 2 different fees that we had asked for with regard to our municipal court. I'm happy to report that they have granted the city authority with regard to the technology fee increase and also with an administrative fee that can be imposed. They had previously granted the request concerning raising the age with regard to applicants as for the Civil Service Fire Department. So I will be bringing that information to the Rules and Ordinance Committee to take action down the road as how they want to proceed about eventually passing ordinances as you've done with other home rule authorities. So the Attorney General advisory opinion, I guess, agreed with our take on it, and in light of taking that advice, the Home Rule Board went forward on it. So I think that was a good outcome. The second thing I want to mention is, and I sent this to the chief operators of the water plant, sewer plant, to Josh, to the mayor, and several other people perhaps. The first of the week, I received an email that was forwarded to me. There is a $250 million it is called Economic Enhancement Grants Fund that's going to be administered through the West Virginia Water Development Authority. I don't want you to think that it only has to do with water or sewer. There are other things that are allowed through this grant. It is ARPA money that the state got, and they passed legislation this last session to fund these economic enhancements grants, and it's going to be administered through the West Virginia Water Development Authority. And I think there are many projects that we could certainly apply for these grants. And I think it's a really great opportunity. So I'm encouraging anyone that looks at these projects that we can use. And it does, like I said, it doesn't have to be just water and sewer. Things like improvements to your municipal buildings, to your parks, many other things. So and there'll be more follow-up about that, I'm sure. That's all. Thank you. No, it's a grant, a total grant. Yep. You just have to meet, obviously, the criteria. And you have to have your project under contract by December 31st, 2024. And whatever funds you get through the grant have to be expended by December 31st, 2026. So you've got some time, but I think, the sooner you get something in there, there's not a deadline for the grant. I think they're going to handle it as rolling, perhaps. It doesn't really say that, but there's lots of projects I think everyone has thought about that this might work. And like I said, it's a grant, not any loans, not any increases for ratepayers or anything like that.
Well, as I mentioned previously, I had met with all the admin officers and our chief operators to compile a list of our capital projects. We tiered those, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Tier 1s obviously need to be addressed immediately. Tier 2s probably could wait 3 to 5 years, and Tier 3s, nice to have, but don't need them immediately. I think it's a good opportunity now for council to take a look at those capital projects and maybe help us prioritize what we should be going after and letting our administrative officers start going after this funding. I mean, if we don't, we're really going to miss the boat on this, I feel. I think it's a prime opportunity for us to grab some of the federal money that's out there. So we can discuss that at a future meeting if you want, unless you have a comment.
I was just going to say, so the administrative officers are going to make the list?
They already have.
They already
It's actually on the chalkboard in the conference room. I mean, we did that a couple months ago before we met with the Municipal League. They compiled it and tiered it. There's a few things that probably need to be added at this point that we hadn't identified at that point in time. Last week, you guys had approved something. Basically, wastewater had a truck where the gas tank fell off of it. So that's something that wasn't on the board, but probably would be now as an immediate need. So, but that's probably going to get approved tonight, it looks like, but through ARPA money. But there's other projects that probably maybe need to be added on there as well. But I think it's a good opportunity for you guys to take a look at what we're looking, or what needs we have, and take a long, hard look at what funding vehicles are available for us to maybe accomplish this and not put that financial burden back on our citizens. Anything else, Ms. Roberts?
No, that's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, moving down to approval of the vendor invoice payments.
I move we pay the AP.
We have a motion. Any comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, down to new business. Under A, we have discussion to acknowledge and accept the study and report of zoning and the corresponding appendices.
All righty.
So basically, council must move to accept the report as is. So I'm going to need a motion.
Well, can I present it?
You absolutely can.
Okay. So on behalf of the Planning Commission, we're very, very pleased to present the official study and report on zoning. You all had been given a copy of it this weekend, and it was in your packet. And it includes the draft zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission has met several times over the past 7 years. This process started in 2015, so we're feeling the 7-year itch here. We have met 45 times working on this project. Some of those times were obviously via Zoom during COVID, but most of the time they were totally open to the public. We had 3 open houses, January 2018, September 2018, and December 2021. We had an online survey asking for public input, September 2016. And in July, we had a really informative public sort of presentation on this study, had numerous people there. And one thing that I'm particularly proud of is that if you look at the minutes of our Planning Commission, you'll see all those public comments and all our responses to those. And same with council comments when we asked for your input. We really made a point of not only responding to it, but also responding to it in the minutes, because we wanted everybody to feel like their voice was important in this process. So we did, when we did the draft, we had the public input, we responded to it. This has been a long process where we've really tried hard to balance quality of life, but also making sure that we're attractive for businesses and commerce. And so this is what we are doing tonight, just so everybody understands, is that we're moving the process forward. This isn't approving the zoning ordinance. This is you all accepting this plan and moving it forward into the process, which is very complicated and one that our city attorney can answer any questions about. But you all received a whole calendar of what processes we have to follow, between having to have legal notices, and they will start as soon as we approve the calendar this evening. So the first part that I'm going to be asking you all to consider is actually approving, we're having a motion to acknowledge and accept, that's the proper language, the study and report on zoning to initiate council's phase of the adoption process. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Any comments or further discussion?
Yeah, I do have a question, and, taking a second look at this, I'm just wondering, especially looking at the map, and, forgive me if this was addressed previously, the difference between single-family residential and city residential, what was the mentality behind designating those areas in that way? I'm not sure who to direct that to. Maybe you, Nancy.
What was our thought process on doing that?
Right, yeah. The difference between the city residential and single-family residential.
Well, the single-family residential is a more limited district.
Right, I understand that. And that's exactly why I'm asking, because it seems that, in certain neighborhoods, mine, for example, it would be okay to buy a house and section it off and make apartments out of it. But in single family, you can't do that. And I'm just wondering if that is, limiting potential opportunities for affordable housing growth. I don't know, just.
We did consider that a great deal.
Sure.
And I'm not sure whether it's appropriate at this place, particular process, to comment on this or not, but that was brought to our attention by different people. But the overwhelming feeling by the Planning Commission was that the designation reflected the particular character of that neighborhood. And when we looked at different options of expanding, having the ability, we looked at the density. That was our biggest concern, the current density of, are you talking about like the Weiss neighborhood in particular?
Well, no, that's one of the single family designated
but
areas.
that was our biggest concern, was current density. And if you do expand and have apartments allowed and whatever, that impacts parking. And so we really looked at the neighborhoods where we were changing that designation and seeing whether that would be a more appropriate fit. But a lot of it had to do with density.
Interesting, okay. Yeah, whenever I was just getting out of college, I know this is kind of anecdotal, I did live in the Weiss district, and there were, apartment buildings there, and it was a good place to live. And I don't think that, it detracted from the neighborhood in any substantial way, really. In fact, it probably enhanced it, in my opinion. So, you know, and that's why I was asking about that.
And one thing to remember is that, that the properties like you're talking about, would be grandfathered in, so those would not be impacted.
Sure, yeah, I'm just, I don't know, thinking about potentially limiting those and if it is harmful or beneficial to do that, I suppose. So that was my question. So, thank you for answering that.
What would be the process in the future for us to have discussions just like Clint brought up? How is that going to, do we need to be at one of the meetings, or is council going to have it?
There were lots of opportunities.
Okay.
There was tons of opportunities to express these concerns beforehand, and, you know, you all did, and the public did, and and they will continue to have we have to have 2 public hearings where people will express their input. What will happen is, and I was talking with the city attorney before this, what happens is this ordinance, draft ordinance, becomes the city's, and changes to the ordinance then becomes your responsibility. The Planning Commission has done its deal. We've had our oodles of meetings, we've had all our hearings, we've listened to lots and lots of people, gathered lots of input, and this is the best daggone document that we're so happy to present to you all. It goes to you all. Then you all are officially the people who oversee the public comment period. It's not the Planning Commission anymore. So that is when we will be hearing and having those discussions. But all these other parts, we have done. We have done that. And the critical thing is that this process has taken so long that we have already seen the effects of not having an improved zoning ordinance. I mean, you look at when our current zoning ordinance was from the 1970s, we're feeling the negative impact of not having updated our rules and regulations since then and adapting to the times. I mean, we have the telecommunications issue, we have marijuana issues, we have lots of things that we need to address, and we need to move forward with this. And so that's...
So another question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
If we approve this, it becomes the city's, but we can still tweak as needed. Is that correct? It's just not going to be on the zoning commission.
So at this point, this process of acknowledging and accepting the report submitted by the Planning Commission is the first step in the process.
Right.
You still have ordinance, you still go through the same process. You're required to have 2 public hearings, and that's the next thing on your agenda to pick the dates, because there has to be a legal ad with regard to those. So, and you're still going to go through the same process you do with any ordinance, but you can't start any of this until the Planning Commission's finished their 45 meetings and however much time in this, and this report. And this report is what you saw last summer with all of the comments made by council at that time and at the meeting at the event center in December with the public. So all of that's been looked at, reviewed, added to this, tweaked, whatever we say. At this point, it is now council's their document to go forward and decide how they're going to handle it. And there is a legal process to do that. That is determined by the West Virginia Code, and which is the part of having the 2 public hearings. And this is going to eventually be an ordinance like every other ordinance that you look at. You have 2 readings. You know, you get to discuss it at the time it's first presented, and move forward just like you would on any other ordinance.
Well,
Gotcha.
and if
Thank
you
you.
could, Jerry, I think the concern or the question that I'm getting here is that is there going to be other opportunities to make adjustments to this before the city adopts it as a whole?
Right, because it's not an ordinance
Is that
yet.
what you're
That the council has. What is here is the
The research that they've
culmination of the comprehensive plan and the report on the zoning with the draft ordinance on it, which, as I said, is very similar to what you'd seen previously. This is the very first step in getting it to a place where actually council will adopt some ordinance or not with regard to zoning. But you can't start that process until this happens this evening, that you acknowledge and accept the report from the Planning Commission. This is the beginning of the process, where the actual legislative action the council would take on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? We do have a motion on the floor from Ms. Maryland, so if no other comments or questions, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, following up on the next portion of this is establish dates for zoning ordinance public hearings.
So the reason this is important is you have to put a legal ad in the paper that's going to tell these dates. One of them has to be in the daytime hours, and if you look at the schedule that was put in your packet with them highlighted, these are the two dates. The one is at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, July 26th. The other will be on your regular council meeting prior to the council, the council meeting starting, which is what you do many times when you have public hearings. But you have to agree to use those as your dates for the hearing so that they can go into the legal ad that has to be published in time to meet the requirements of the law.
So I'm looking for a motion to accept the dates of July 26th at 1 p.m. and July 28th at 7 p.m., please.
So moved.
We have a motion. Any other comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, moving down to C, the ad hoc ARPA Advisory Committee recommendations. And we have options. We can either do all 5 at one time, or we can do them individually. What is your preference?
I move we do them all at the same time.
Okay, just for the public's awareness, it is the sewer service extension study, the wastewater collection, wastewater plant needs, fire department, and the street department. So I'll look for a motion to accept these recommendations.
So moved.
Is that you? Okay. We have a motion. Any other comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Now to D, the Welcome to Elkins sign design.
I would have asked Sutton if he could put
I believe Sutton is going to display these for us.
I'd ask Sutton if he could put the colored signs on the screen for us, because at our municipal properties meeting 2 weeks ago, the page that was given to me was like black and gold, and we were to decide which sign that we would recommend, and I said I cannot recommend anything right now until I see something in color and also have a little background. So while Sutton is getting that in place, the background that Sutton gave me said that the Elkins brand identity, created in collaboration with the Elkins Hubcap team, these various signs. Solar Spence was hired through Hubcap to enhance the Elkins brand by creating images and logos that represent the culture of Elkins. These signs will be made with the same material as the City Hall parking lot signs, and recommended that Valley Steel might make the posts. If they are, if we approve this tonight and that the designs are sent away, they will be completed by June 30th. So hopefully the colored signs will.
And I'm sorry, I apologize, that's out of date. I think it has to go back to finance, and so there's nothing, that won't be possible, but here's the signs.
And one thing that, if you're not in this business, one thing that's important to recognize is the fact that every single monitor, printer, and everything will have a different version of green in it. But printers and vendors use a specific Pantone color number to ensure that there's consistency. And the packet of the color palette will be consistent with the other, am I speaking correctly here, Sutton? Would be the same Pantone, and having the same sign maker that did the city park sign will ensure that consistency. So it is really hard, you know, when you try to compare different display monitors and things like that, but the color would be true to what the palette, the Elkins Main Street palette is.
And I was told what, you know, they're trying to do is to create something that as the traffic zooms by, that something will catch their eye about Elkins and get more information from the website.
As you may see at the bottom of all these, it uses a URL, elkinswv.us, that appears in various ways at the bottom of all of these. And the thinking there is, you know, one, to get people onto our website, and one of the things they'd be presented with would be some version of a representation of what used to appear on the old metal signs, the signs of the various service organizations that you often see outside of many cities. And so it'd be something like this. I mean, final design still to come, but they'd follow this elkinswv.us and arrive at a page on our site that looks something like this, presents logos of partner organizations and service organizations, all of which would, you know, each logo would link to their page. And then, of course, there would also be an off-ramp from this page that would get you into our site, to our welcome guide page that's on the website.
And these signs are at the locations that were in that.
You have a map, I think, that shows the
Right.
location.
Number 2 stands out to me the most.
I agree. I like
Me
that one.
too.
I like number 3.
I like the mountain, and I like the back. I was concerned about the circles, but you being able to figure out what it was, especially with the yellow.
What's the difference between 3 and 4?
The color of the circles around the icons.
Icons, sorry, yes.
I think the circles are embossed in one of those as well, maybe 3, but those circles stand out from the sign.
Yeah, they're kind of.
I think the circles, if you really look at them, it just, as I'm seeing, are really a fundamental distraction. Because we're talking about people driving. And those same symbols are incorporated into, I think it's number 2. We're incorporated in all of them, but
Plus an extra.
But those symbols just sort of take away from the whole welcome to Elkins thing. I mean, yeah, and we've got the symbols incorporated.
In number 2, they're not as, to me, in number 2, they're not as flashy. They're there, but they're not, they're there, but it's not like
Distracting.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
distracting.
Well, and the contrast is,
Yeah,
having
and
is better
the
than
yellow or the
white
yellow
on
or
yellow.
gold on the white background to me is.
I do want to point out too that it does have an extra symbol in there, and that is, you know, a glass with some bubbles in it, which ostensibly could be beer from our local brewery. And that's important.
That is what it is.
That's what it's meant to be.
Exactly, there you go.
Yeah, we put that in there.
Okay. How do you want to do it? You want to go around the room and put the number,
I would say we're probably going to have to vote. Is that how we do this, a roll call vote on this one?
I mean, I can't do
someone could just move a design.
I'll
No,
make
pick
them,
number 3.
huh?
I mean, just say, number 2, or 2,
We were
whatever.
number 2.
2, I'm sorry.
Okay,
two,
I
two.
agree with number 3.
Number 2.
No, 2, I'm sorry. You made the motion.
Just I'll make the motion that we
Accept number 2.
accept the number 2 design.
Okay, we have a motion. Any other comments or discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Roll call vote.
Nay. That's fine. And so these will all be the same,
Yes.
right?
Sutton,
Hallelujah.
Oh, how refreshing.
We need 3
Sutton, do we need a roll call vote since it wasn't unanimous?
No.
Are you sure?
Someone can always call for
Okay.
a roll call vote, but for something like this,
Just making sure.
for something like this, it's not necessary.
Well, and
Unlike
we heard
budget
right.
matters.
Thank you, guys. Okay, consider changes to the council meetings of June 16th, July 21st, and August 4th. Did you want to speak to that, Ms. Roberts?
I certainly can. I believe Jessica sent an email out, let me get
Correct.
the right one, that everyone was looking at vacations, trying to meet these timelines about the zoning ordinance and all of that.
Municipal League
The
Conference.
Municipal League Conference is the first week of August. I am planning on attending. I know the mayor is. I believe Jessica is, and perhaps others. So that was one of the reasons we're looking at those meetings. And I believe Jessica's email from May 26th that went to council has the proposed, there's a calendar with those 2 months, June and July on it. So you just need to decide if you're willing to make the changes. The June 16th meeting, which would be your next one, is going to be the same week, but on June 14th, which is a Tuesday. The July 21st meeting, canceling that and having a special call council meeting for the following Thursday, the 28th. And the last one is canceling the August 4th meeting because that is the, one of the last days of the Municipal League meeting, and it's probably, if you're attending the meeting, you want to be there Thursday evening. So you still could have a meeting in August to replace that one if you choose to, if you need to, with a special call meeting, but it would cancel that one, change the July 21st, cancel it, and make it a special call on the 28th. And then the third one is changing your next June meeting from the 16th to to June 14th.
And if I could just follow up with the one in June, the purpose of that is our last state budget revision has to be turned into the state auditor by the 15th, not after that. So we would have to do it by the 14th.
And I think if no one has any questions about them, I think you could vote on changing them all.
Correct.
With those proposed dates.
I'm fine with that personally. I'm looking on here for that email and I'm just not seeing it.
Are you making a motion to accept the changes then, sir?
Oh, here, you can look at mine if you'd like.
Yeah, I would love a copy of that email.
Yeah.
That's all I'm wanting.
There
but-
you go.
yeah. But yes, I will make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to accept the changes as proposed. Any other comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Down to mayor's comments. This was actually a very exciting week for me because I got to partake in my second Memorial Day ceremony at our monument up here, and I have to say, it's always done with class. They do a fantastic job. The weather was very hot, I will tell you that, though, especially since I decided to wear a suit and it was 90 degrees. But I'm just saying that's just a very special ceremony. This is the second year I've got to do that in a row. Just very well done. Miss Judy Guy was there, so it was nice seeing her out there for that as well. Just like I said, it was a very special time for me. Next Tuesday, the mayor's task force to deal with addiction and homelessness is going to have a public forum at the Phil Gaynor Community Center. I like to refer to it as the Phil now. I'm going to shorten that name, so it's going to be called the Phil. So it'll be 6 o'clock. We would like to encourage a lot of people to come out if they could. We're going to give an update on what progress we've made, and we have a couple guest visitors that may be showing up from different areas. So make people aware of that. I've already mentioned Rachel's anniversary coming up, and I just want to say we are very blessed to have her. She does a tremendous job of keeping me organized, which is not an easy task. She takes a lot off my plate by fielding phone calls every day, and she has picked up on things tremendously. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're still here, and welcome. I had a long conversation with Buchanan Mayor Robbie Skinner last night about a variety of topics, and he came up with an idea, and I actually like this, but I want to run it by you guys. He would like to share his agenda and minutes from his council members' meetings with us, and then we can share ours with them so that we know what our neighboring cities are doing. I like the idea to see if there's any collaboration possibilities in the future, and also for lessons learned. If they're dealing with something or we're dealing with something they've already dealt with, it gives us an opportunity to kind of reach out to them, pick their brains, and figure out what they've already done, how they were successful, or what didn't work. And we can do the same for them. So we thought about maybe including that in your correspondence package if that's something you would be interested in.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Like I said, we're all Appalachian, we're all humans, so let's make that happen. So I always like an opportunity to collaborate. With that said, I'll go around the room for any alibis. If none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you.